Welcome back, adventurers and friends, to Adventures Inward Let's Talk series. For those who are here for the first time, hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Just a reminder to hit that like button and be sure to subscribe. It's free. Don't forget to click on the notification bell if you would like to know when I post new videos. Today, we will be talking about understanding grief and breaking it down into the 5 stages you can expect to experience. So get comfy cozy, open your heart, open your mind, and let's get into it. Grief is the acute pain that accompanies loss. Because it is a reflection of what we love, it can feel all-encompassing. Grief is not limited to the loss of people, but when it follows the loss of a loved one, it may be compounded by feelings of guilt and confusion, especially if the relationship was a difficult one. So does everyone follow 5 stages of grief? Many people expect to experience denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. However, it has been demonstrated that many, if not most, people will not progress through all of these stages. While some people do experience them and eventually reach acceptance after a loss, grief is now understood to be highly individualized and unpredictable. What's the difference between grief and depression? Many of the symptoms of grief overlap with those of depression. There is sadness, and often the loss of capacity for pleasure. There's insomnia, and loss of interest in eating or taking care of oneself. But symptoms of grief tend to lessen over time, although they may be temporarily reactivated on anniversaries or when other reminders of a loss arise. While negative thoughts such as life is unfair and I'll never get over this are part of the normal grieving process, it is important to prevent them from guiding your actions. So what's the process of grief? Well, let's look at this. Because grief obeys its own trajectory, there is no timetable for feelings of pain after loss. Nor is it possible to avoid suffering altogether. In fact, attempts to suppress or deny grief are just as likely to prolong the process, while also demanding additional emotional effort. Similarly, the misperception that more grief is better or that there is a proper way to grieve can make the process more difficult. For some people, grief is short-term, also known as acute grief, although the pain may return unexpectedly at a later time. But other individuals may experience prolonged grief, also known as complicated grief, lasting months or even years. Without help and support, such grief can lead to isolation and even chronic loneliness. So how to go about supporting a griever? Because grief is experienced in many ways, experts suggest that those who would support a friend or loved one in a time of grieving follow that person's lead and resist judging whether they seem to be insufficiently sad or to be dwelling in grief for too long. And it is generally unhelpful to encourage the pursuit of closure. Offering practical help and an acknowledgement of a loss are both positive actions. Many mourners want those around them to listen, ask questions, and share memories, thereby confirming the depth and validity of the griever's feelings and helping them heal. So what do we mourn? It is expected that someone will grieve after the loss of a parent, sibling, partner, child, or best friend. But those are not the only losses that lead to grief. People may grieve the loss of a treasured pet, a job, or other important role in life, or a home, or other emotionally significant possession. And it often occurs after a divorce. Unfortunately, many find that those around them do not acknowledge these forms of grief, which is why they are labeled disenfranchised. The pain is compounded by the feeling that one has not been given permission to experience it. But the framework of mourning can help an individual work through such moments of chaos, especially if those around them respond with compassion and recognize that an individual is entitled to anger, numbness, and nonlinear healing. Here are my final thoughts on this. It's not something anyone wants to have to go through, but it is something everyone will. How we deal with the stages and the emotions that follow grief will have an impact that can be life-altering. It is important to balance each moment with clear and stable options. Allow yourself to learn what tools are available and what you can expect. Be patient with your experience and with your feelings. Remember to be kind to yourself, give yourself grace, and always, always love yourself. Thank you for joining me.